Hey, everybody, go blue. And for the Nebraska people watching, go big red as well. A couple of quick things at the beginning here. Is Michigan king of the Big Ten? And we'll have our Nebraska preview with Johnston at Coronation and Rutgers. And finally, third base, Ryan Day. And so much more coming up on Michigan Wolverines Live. And we got our 109th episode of Michigan Wolverines Live. Today is Tuesday, September 26th. That's right, folks. We have our new time, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And it just so happened that we had a double header because we had the Nebraska show at 7 Eastern. So literally back to back. Thank you for those of you who have watched both. And thank you to those on Coronation who are also here watching. We're simulcasting on the Michigan channel, the Nebraska channel, and Coronation. So we do ask that you subscribe to whatever channel you're on right now, and share this with a friend. My name's John Diadamo, and I'm going to be taking you through the next hour, but I don't want to waste any more time. Let's bring on our special guest, and that's John Johnston from Coronation. John, thanks for coming by.
My God, such an energetic intro. Dude, are you this happy all the time? Is this what it's like to have a winning football team? I used to know.
Yeah, you know, we have a saying, John. Who's got it better than us?
Oh my!
And then
God.
we're gonna have the responses hopefully coming soon here. Who's got it better than us? Come on, help me out. We have a little bit of a delay.
Oh, are you talking to the commenters? Are you talking to Colorado? Has it better than you? Obviously.
Yeah, that's what they definitely have it better. And there we go. Thank you, Mike Fort. Thank you. There we go. Now we're getting it. Now we're getting it. See, this is what I was waiting for, John.
Oh my God.
This is it. Thank you, Dependent Fanatic. And yes, I have moved this show specifically because Dependent Fanatic has cards on Wednesday, and I've decided, Dependent Fanatic, he's a loyal viewer. Let's move it to Tuesday. No, but thank you for everybody who's watching this. So, of course, John, you're here to give the Nebraska perspective on things. And I think you and I have talked about this before on Big Ten Live and elsewhere, that I think Matt Rule was probably the best hire you could have gotten out of everybody available. Like, you somehow pulled him away from making $40 million sitting in his whatever kayak or hut or whatever he's up to. You got him out when he could have taken a year or two off. To come and coach the Nebraska football team and bring it back up to hopefully some glory days. And so with that said, John, kind of looking at Nebraska as a whole and in this game, walk me through a little bit of kind of what you've seen the first couple of games here.
Let me ask before I start, which version of me do you want? Do you want the lying, deceitful Homer? Or do you want the guy that actually is kind of truthful about everything?
Well, we try to keep the insight and analysis going here at Voice of College Football, but you can add some homerism to it because we don't mind that either.
Okay, I'll have to do that, otherwise I'll just weep. Matt Rule, I think he was a good hire. I mean, before, when we were looking for all these coaches and looking through all the lists, and God knows you have to put every name out there. The other guy I actually wouldn't have minded was Luke Fickell, and he went to Wisconsin. So I guess my preview on Matt Rule was that he looked like an Ewok. That was the only negative thing I could find about him before we hired him. And I think that, well, let's be honest. I mean, Nebraska won the offseason. He was everything that the other guy wasn't. He's done all this stuff. He spent his offseason going out and building relationships with, internal state of Nebraska high school coaches, Texas high school coaches where he had connections. He went out and built a lot of relationships, and he repaired a lot of the ones that were well, quite frankly, damaged by the previous coach. And, I think that will pay off dividends. Nebraska is keeping their own players largely at home, which, there's not a lot of them, but honestly, when they go to other schools and they're, like Carter Nelson, I think was a 4 or 5-star recruit. If he goes to another place, that's kind of embarrassing, and it's a mark on your program. If you're the only program in the state and you can't keep a guy. So I think probably it's been too good. The coverage, the goo that we have the phrase. I don't know if you guys do this during the off season, but Nebraska's media, and we do this a little bit at Coronation. You just heap sugar on top of sugar on top of sugar, and Matt Rule says all the right things, and then we go into Minnesota, and we throw the game away, and then everybody's just instantly. We could have hired Deion Sanders, and he's turned it around. He's magic, and everybody loves him, and we just are so bad. And it's been that part of it's been nuts to deal with. And I'm sure you guys, Michigan, you have a passionate fan base. You're all insane at times.
Oh, absolutely.
Now you have Ohio State under your thumb, and I suppose it's been good lately. Who has it better than you?
Yeah, I mean, some would say Georgia, but I'd say Michigan is up there, and obviously Georgia's 1, Michigan's 2.
Yeah.
But I've actually, so believe it or not, to prepare, I actually watched some film from the last couple of games,
okay.
and so I've watched this guy Heinrich Harburg become the #1 rusher on your team.
Yeah.
And so not only can he quarterback, he can throw. And some of your Nebraska people on the last show, they were saying, can he throw that well? Jury's out. But when he runs, he runs.
Yeah.
And
right.
he can take you all the way 70+ yards and get touchdowns. So so what's your take on what you've seen from Harburg so far?
That part is shocking. See, the key there is he can't just run. He can outrun. And I think the thing that completely shocked me, that he actually had a burst of speed, and he went right past granted, they were Louisiana Tech defensive backs, but still, for a guy you never thought would do that, he was off and gone. And, it was nice to see that, because the honest to God truth is our offense doesn't really have playmakers. And if he can add anything to it, then we're that further ahead. I think that, the passing stuff, none of us has really sold real heavily on that because, well, to be honest with you, we don't really have playmaker threats at receivers. We have Billy Kemp, who's decent, Marcus Washington, who's decent, but they don't seem to be getting open. They don't seem to be getting separation. We have Tommy Hill that at least once a game comes in to run down the field and get thrown a ball in the air in the hopes that he can catch it and stretch the defense. But, put it this way, Jeff Sims came in for the first 2 games, and when he threw the ball, he threw it to the other team. And that's apparently not, that's not good when you're doing that in football. And, he literally threw the Minnesota game away. And then you could argue that I think Colorado would have probably beat us anyway.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that. I really do. But, giving them the game and giving them the turnover, we just gave it to them. So, plus we've been beaten, and when you get a guy out there and you kind of like, he might be good. You're like a little, things might be okay. It's really, you don't want to be too loud. Otherwise, it's back to crouch and cover and hide in the closet, stuff like that.
Yeah, I will say the Minnesota game didn't surprise me too much, except for, like you said, Sims. Just because of the closeness. Like, I could have seen that game going either way with that, defensive performance. Like, I genuinely thought that's probably what was going to happen, but I wasn't sure who was going to come out ahead. But it could have gone either way. But I liked the physicality I saw from Nebraska at times. Like, Rule has absolutely implemented that. And so going into Colorado, I actually, believe it or not, thought Nebraska was going to beat Colorado because I thought Colorado didn't have the line play to contend with a Big Ten team. And I still don't think that they have the line play to contend with the best Big Ten teams. You look at what Oregon just did to them.
Right.
Their line play was like, it was like this. I mean, compared, but Nebraska, I think you're close. I think you're, looking at what Rule does in every stop of his career, except for the NFL. But in every other stop in his career, he builds programs up. So seeing the physicality already, I heard that in practice they, we don't use the previous coach's name. You and I call him Voldemort. But
I usually refer to him as that guy we fired.
That guy you fired. But apparently there, the quarterbacks, there wasn't a lot of tackling in practice compared to what Rule is doing. And so that was a needed change in the Big Ten. But I will say, and, I had some people criticize me on the last show, because I did stop by the Nebraska show for a minute, and they were like, well, he doesn't respect our defense. Well, actually, I do. And I have here, so 13 and a half sacks. I think I counted correctly. I was looking at but you have a lot of sacks. Yeah. And the 3-3-5 has given Michigan trouble against a team called TCU, right? So it's not like it would be crazy to see Nebraska get maybe a turnover or something like that. But I'm looking at these players, Isaac Gifford and Omar Brown in particular, although I think that there are quite a few. But what have you seen on the defensive side of the ball that you want maybe somebody who's a Michigan fan to know about?
I think the thing is, we heard a lot of the offseason was spent lamenting the fact that our offensive line doesn't have a lot of depth, and it kind of doesn't. And the defensive line would have no depth whatsoever. And to see the fact that our defensive line has actually come out and played very good, that's probably out of any position group, I would say that's the biggest shock. Because, it's not just been that we haven't had a pass rush in freaking years. And all of a sudden we are pressuring people, and we are we are sacking people, and granted, it's just the beginning of the season, and Michigan, I think, is a whole nother level of stuff. But the fact that the defense shocked me. Honestly, I figured Minnesota would score their custom 25 points, and they could barely score at all. So the fact that they're playing as good a defense as they are, they're swarming to the ball on tackles. They're very aggressive when they need to be. The defensive backs are doing a fairly good job in coverage. That has been pretty surprising, compared way above whatever expectations I might have had. And I think it starts with Ty Robinson up front. I don't know if Cameron Lenhart, who's a freshman, will play this weekend. The polar bear, I think his real name is Nash Hutmacher. I call him Nut Masher because I'm terrible with names. And we'll see. We'll see how good those guys can stand up to Michigan's offensive line.
Clearly a Nebraska fan. We're going to have 9 sacks. 9 sacks. Wow.
9. Yeah, 9.
That's quite a few. So let me ask you this. And we were talking about this on the Nebraska show, and I tried to answer from both perspectives. Like, what would Nebraska have to do to win? What would Michigan do? But in your opinion, looking at this game, obviously Michigan's favored by 19.5, but
it went down to 17.5 today.
Oh, did it? Okay.
They're getting worried.
Okay. So either way, that's a decent chunk of points, but they're thinking maybe a little bit less than before. So I guess just what does Nebraska need to do on all phases to beat Michigan?
They need to have an offense. That's really what it comes down to. They need to our offensive line is a work in progress, and that's probably being kind. I don't know what you're going to hear from other Nebraska people, but here's what I see. They don't come off the ball as quickly as they need to. And I don't think that they can. We don't really have a passing game because we don't have great playmakers in the receiver core. Now, maybe something will happen during this game where we'll make some plays and Michigan will have to respect the passing game. But we're going to have to run the ball, and we're going to have to run it very well. And I just think that our offensive line is going to have to play better than they have yet this season. They're going to have to come off the ball. We run counter plays sometimes and trap plays, and in those plays we pull, right? And I just wonder if we have the speed to get off on those plays and get the blocks carried out without Michigan. You guys have probably one of the best defensive lines in the nation, right?
Yeah.
And you have one guy that's like projected in the first 2 rounds. I can't remember his name. But
yeah,
I just those if Nebraska's offensive line can't man up, then I think your defensive line will just treat us like ragdolls. And I think our defense can probably keep up with you for a while, but not if we can't make first downs and possess the ball. And that's the other key is, I hate to say this too. My God, I've already said nice things about Colorado. I think we want to be what Minnesota has been. We want to be able to possess the ball, extend possessions, run the clock, keep your offense off the field, get first downs, and then score, just get some scoring. And I think if we can do that, then, keep it maybe within a touchdown going into the fourth quarter, and we'll see what happens. Nebraska's last 2 games against Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech, we have looked really, Chris Jenkins, that's the guy I was thinking of.
Because the other one I was thinking, he has another year still. So yeah, Chris Jenkins.
But I think the last 2 games, Nebraska has been fairly flat in the first half. And I came out with a theory, and that was because the guy we fired, he would always lose games at the end. They'd always look like they were completely petered out by the fourth quarter. Now we just walk around. We kind of just, we're really flat in the first half so we can be really good in the second half and then win the game at the end. That's our new thing that nobody else is saying but me.
Yeah, win it at the end.
Yeah.
I think So let's go to the Michigan perspective of what we might need to do to win the game. I think we need to not fall asleep.
Yeah.
Need to take Nebraska seriously. Michigan has had a tendency to occasionally sleep on a team, and they don't show up, and that would need to happen here. JJ would need to get intercepted, 3 or 4 times. Because otherwise JJ has, obviously a wide skill set, right? So obviously he can run just like your guy, Harburg, but he also can throw the ball. He can throw the short, medium, long ball. He can hand it off if he needs to. He can do a lot of things. And so he's a versatile player. He reminds me, I'm trying to think of some, Patrick Mahomes is a lot to compare somebody to, but from a skill set perspective and what he can do and the improvisation that he can do reminds me of a young Patrick Mahomes and what he can do. And so you combine that with an O-line that I would argue isn't our best. It's, again, Ladarius Henderson at left tackle, and now Carson Barnhart at right tackle, assuming they keep that personnel. And they're not going to change it again. They're finally taking the Michigan Wolverines Live recommendation to have Ladarius at left tackle and Barnhart at right tackle. Then you have Trente Jones as the 6th personnel, because as you probably know, Michigan runs a lot of 6 lineman sets because Harbaugh likes to pound the rock. He likes those bunch formations. He's an old school 80s style Bo Schembechler throwback in a lot of ways. And that's one of them. So that's how important that 6th lineman is to talk about. You combine that with, now you actually have a real receiving threat. Roman Wilson has turned into an actual answer in the red zone. That was one of Michigan's biggest struggles, is red zone touchdowns for the longest time. But Roman Wilson has been working on that. Cornelius Johnston obviously had the Ohio State game. And you've got Colston Loveland at tight end, who I would kind of argue is a receiving end, really kind of everything, tight end, wide receiver hybrid role at this point because of just how he's used in motion formations, just like kind of getting out in motion, going on out routes, tight end option plays, things like that. JJ trusts him a lot. And so if Roman Wilson is able to catch some balls, Colston Loveland has some clutch plays. And then on defense, really, I think that the big takeaway is seeing how healthy Rod Moore is at safety, right? Because I will say Keon Sabb has looked good as his replacement. He's actually been named our impact player of the game a couple of times. So he's come in and he's done some great things for Michigan. Obviously, five solo tackles, 9 total, half a sack, and that's as somebody who's not really considered a starter, but he has to be right now. So he's doing pretty well. Kenneth Grant has been a real impact player on defense. So of course, you've got your your seniors, your Michael Barretts of the world. Your guy, Ernest Hausman, has been competing with Michael Barrett, and it's really an iron sharpens iron type of thing, because Michael Barrett makes a play, Ernest Hausman makes a play, Michael Barrett makes a play, they're rotating them out because they're both really good. So I would expect that your quarterback is going to have to run the ball a lot, which I will say, and I said this on the last show, that's one of our only defensive weaknesses is against running quarterbacks. You saw it last year. You even saw it at times this year when Wimsatt went out. I mean, Rutgers, Wimsatt had some runs that did go for yardage. So yeah, I think the keys to the game: don't fall asleep, produce, keep Harburg to a minimum in terms of rushing yards, and then you might have a victory for Michigan. So
we're going to run option.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what do you think's going to happen there?
Yeah, I think with
somebody when Ernest Hausman is in the game, somebody's going to go, I don't care what happens this play, hit that guy.
Yep. Yep. Oh, he is, and he's in that mold of like he'll just go after you. So yeah, if he bites on the wrong guy, that could be a problem when you look at RPOs and you look at option. I did see some option in the film that I watched, and
right.
And it seemed to work pretty well, but it was working well against teams called Louisiana Tech,
right,
and teams called NIU, and
right.
And so it's obviously stepping up a notch here. I also noticed that Shadur Sanders, Colorado, is also a dynamic quarterback and caused some real problems for the defense.
They do for everybody. I mean, quarterbacks that can run, cause problems for everybody. So it's a matter of whether or not Nebraska can actually, mix the option with some other plays. I think they have to run stuff like counters, traps, and option, because their offensive line is not, Nebraska's offensive line is not just good enough to get up and do inside zone and outside zone plays and block straight up by themselves. They need something that's going to give them leverage on people or get people out of position. So all defensive tackles are big and nasty. It's kind of what they are.
We have a little we love our community. Obviously, some enthusiastic Michigan fans here.
Yeah.
Jason is one of our actually helped me, came in clutch on the last Michigan post-game show because our normal co-host wasn't able to make it. Jason came in and was co-host. So we appreciate that he was able to do that for us. So yeah,
nobody is running up we're not going to run up the middle. My God, we're not insane. We'll probably try it a couple times. You guys
might with the fullback. You might have the fullback go up for a yard or two, and
he's the guy that they're going to go, they're running up the middle, and then Harburg's gone around the outside.
So Mike actually makes a great point. And Rutgers and Nebraska aren't extremely dissimilar in the fact that I think that the of both teams are stronger than the offense. And the game plan for Rutgers was have these long punishing drives, especially with the fact that the clocks now the games go so
Right.
fast that if you have these long, like 12 play drives, pound the rock, and yeah, you mix in the pass too, but then the defenses get tired, and then all of a sudden it's the end of the game and it's 31-7, right? So that I think you're spot on, Mike.
Rutgers was able to gain a fair amount of yardage. I thought they looked a lot better than I thought they would. I thought you guys would like kill them. They did gain some yardage. They just weren't able to punch it in the end zone, from what I remember about that game.
Rutgers did so. Cole, Rutgers, Wimsatt did run for a bit. It wasn't like a tremendous amount, but when he ran, he did get some yardage, and Michigan was struggling at least for a while, and I think it eventually adjusted. But yeah, he does run, and it becomes a challenge, and so I think that Harburg is an even better runner. Actually, I think he's a lot better runner than Wimsatt. So that's absolutely true. And awesome. And so John, we actually have one of our somebody who comes by almost every week joining us for Michigan Wolverines Live. So joining us as well from Blue by 90, we got Tanner Wooten in the house. Go Blue, man.
Hey, go Blue. Good evening, everyone.
Great.
That guy has a Detroit Lions hat on.
Hey,
what the hell is going on?
Jason will love that.
Well, I don't know. In Nebraska, I lived in Omaha for a decade, and I learned in Omaha you don't have any professional football teams or any real professional teams, and so it's Packers, it's Broncos, it's Chiefs, it's Vikings. Yeah. So you get a wide range of teams in Omaha, so you never know who you're going to run into. But hey, they're 2-1. Got the Packers in 2 days. I'm feeling good.
I actually grew up a Packers fan.
Oh, okay. So we got a big
one. I
grew
up in Western Nebraska, and I'm old. So when I was a kid, the Packers were winning all the Super Bowls. And, when I was like in first grade, my friend Dale goes, we all have to pick NFL teams. And I didn't know anything about the NFL except my brothers had Green Bay Packers stuff. So I was stuck as Packers guy for my entire life. There was a 30-year drought there that was really terrible.
Well, I feel, look at who you're talking to. We've got to, when was the modern era? 56-year drought. So, but hey, we got Michigan, Nebraska. We got Detroit, Green Bay. So a couple matchups this weekend for us, I suppose.
Absolutely. And we were kind of just breaking down Nebraska, especially for those Michigan fans who might not be watching a lot of Nebraska film. I did watch some film from especially the last two games with Harburg as quarterback, and just noticed that his running ability is pretty good. It's one of the better in the Big Ten, I would argue. Passing ability, not so much, but again, Michigan has struggled sometimes against quarterbacks who can run. So I'd love to get your take on it, Tanner. Just what you think about Nebraska and the what challenge they may bring to Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. I just came from a live show talking Nebraska with some guys that I know from Omaha, and yeah, my wife's a Nebraska grad, so I was watching the Nebraska-Louisiana Tech game on Saturday after I got home from the big house. Trying to flip to the other games, but trying to keep her happy. And man, yeah, I thought Harburg looked athletic. I don't know if that downfield passing game is there from him, but maybe similar to what we just saw at Rutgers with Gavin Wimsatt. An athletic kid, a big strong kid who can definitely hurt you with his legs. I mean, we saw him get out on some keepers against Michigan on Saturday. But I think the thing, that I look at Nebraska, I think Anthony Grant's been running the ball really well. I know they've got some injuries in that running backs room, but he's been pretty solid from what I've seen. I liked what I saw against Louisiana Tech. The thing with Nebraska's run game is it's probably going to be the best front seven they maybe face all year long. When you think about Michigan's defensive line and their linebackers. And then the secondary is fantastic as well. I mean, Will Johnston and Rod Moore have been banged up, but they played. Mike Sanders still had a pick six. He's an All-American at the slot nickel position. And when I think about Nebraska defensively, I think they could give Michigan some fits. That 3-3-5 stack that they run, very reminiscent of the TCU defense
Yes.
from last year, right? And it's funny. I want to give.
Does this make you guys like, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, little.
If I say Max
not
Duggan,
great flashbacks. Yeah,
a little bit. And I think the thing with that defense that's so interesting is how new it still is relative to the rest of football. And so I was reading an article on MGO Blog, who does a fantastic job covering Michigan and their opponents each week, and I love reading it. Talking about the 3-3-5, I'm pretty sure that Nebraska's current defensive coordinator came from that, like is very high up on that coaching tree from the guy who created the damn thing. Right. So they know how to run it, and obviously it's their first year running it, but it's been paying dividends. Number one in rush defense. Obviously haven't played a team the caliber of Michigan, but I do like number 0. I made this joke earlier, but I might have a dream this week about being a defensive tackle wearing number 0 as a big guy. Like, that's awesome. I wish I could have worn number 0. I had to wear like 68, So yeah, I think they've got some players on defense. I think that front seven's a lot better than it was last year. Like, Michigan had no problem moving them around, and I think this year they're much more stout. So, still a game that I think Michigan's just too talented for, but I think they've got some pieces, and I really like the direction that I've seen from them thus far. I mean, they've got some stench they got to cleanse off from the previous regime with these players, but I do think Rule has them on the right track. And again, my wife's a Nebraska graduate, so I played in high school with Chris Webber and Graham Nabby, who were walk-ons in Nebraska. Like, I root for Nebraska when they don't play Michigan. So, it's I have a soft spot for the Huskers. I got a lot of friends who are Nebraska fans. So this is always a fun week for me. And yeah, I'm really intrigued with what Matt Rule's going to do there. I think they're going to get to a point where they're going to be pretty damn good. So I don't think it'll be this year though, but I think that he will build this program the right way. So I'm excited to see them, continue to move forward.
Yeah, we lost our starting running back, Gabe Irvin Jr., and then we lost the guy who I think was the biggest playmaker on the team in Ramir Johnson. He basically second or third, it's kind of an or thing with the running backs, but second or third running back. I think he was a guy that you could just slip out of the back. He was explosive enough that if he got into open space, he could just get chunk yardage. And that's really kind of, I think, what Nebraska is missing out of their offense, other than consistent line play. I'm talking about people that can just make plays and go, oh, look, it's 30, 40 yards now. And I don't think we have that, although like Heinrich Harburg showed that he could, at least against Louisiana Tech. But that's why you play games like this, is to find out who you are and how far you've come in the first 4 weeks. And then, come on, I see some of the commenters have gone back and forth about the stats. You guys have had 4 home games against cupcake, snacks. That's what you've had. You've had snacks so far this season. So now you got to play at least part of a real team. Yeah. We have kind of a defense, and we're going to find out. It's the number 1 rush defense of the nation. We're going to find out if they can live up to that.
Hey, this will definitely be a great test for that. And I did notice. So we saw this today that Michigan put out a nice little graphic about JJ, Blake Corum, and Roman Wilson being number 1 in completions and in rushing yards and in receiving yards. So I would say all 3 of them really need to be activated in this game to really have the best chance of success. So from Tanner, from your perspective, what do you think Michigan needs to do to beat Nebraska?
I think they need to, kind of get back to some of their power and gap schemes that they've had success with. They had, for whatever reason, tried outside zone, and it just is very hard to implement with some of the guys they've had. And I think they've kind of ditched that. So, seeing them get back to what their bread and butter was the last 2 years is what I want to see. I want to see more consistency at the tackle spots. I don't know if you guys have talked about it, but Michigan has had 3 guys play between the left and right tackles spots this year. So it's been really weird. Not sure what the reasoning is there. But yeah, I think for Michigan, it's just, it's implementing JJ's legs into the run game. I think about that TCU game last year, when that really turned towards Michigan really having a chance to win that game, is when they let JJ McCarthy run the ball and incorporated his legs into the offense. He was, we joke about this a lot. You can tell when Michigan has the reads turned off, because the end will be crashing in and JJ McCarthy will hand that ball off. That did not happen against Rutgers. I think he had 5 or 6 rushes for 51 yards. He a couple times pulled it on critical 3rd and 4th down situations and got the necessary yardage for a first down. So I think keeping him involved in the run game, that's going to open up things for Blake and Donovan. So that's what I want to see, is just the run game continue to improve, find more stability at the 5 offensive line spots, and mistake-free football.
Tanner, here's the question. Like, have they finally taken the Michigan Wolverines Live official recommendation to go Ladarius on left tackle and Carson Barnhart at right tackle and Trente Jones as the 6th guy? Can they just stick with that, please? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's been interesting watching Miles Hinton, because I thought Miles Hinton had some good moments on Saturday. There was a time that he, on a run play that got 8 yards, he kind of peeled off the lineman that he blocked into a linebacker. That was a really nice block. And then I see some down moments, and the same thing with Henderson. Like, it's not like Henderson's been amazing, but I just want consistent. Just pick your 2, right? Like, we know who the 3 interior guys are. Just pick your 2 tackles. But yeah, that's been an interesting thing to watch this year. I mean, last year we didn't have that. I mean, you had all 5 guys cemented until Trente Jones goes down with an injury, and Barnhart slides in and does great. So, I wish we had Ryan Hayes. Like, I would take Ryan Hayes right now.
Sure,
but I think he's in the NFL.
Anybody would.
So yeah,
anybody would.
It's been a weird dynamic with the tackles, but that's like my biggest concern right now.
Okay, what is the weakest part of your team? Oh, come on. You don't have to think that hard about it.
Backup quarterback. Honestly, if JJ McCarthy gets hurt, we are
really.
It's not good.
CB2.
Yeah, the second cornerback, obviously Will Johnston is an All-American level player.
Right.
We've seen a transfer come in from UMass, Josh Wallace, who's played a lot of football. He's looked okay. There've been times where he's played pretty soft coverage, and I'm assuming that's just the coaches are calling that off coverage. But against Gavin Wimsatt, make him throw the ball. Like, there's no reason to give him to play off on his receivers. Like, make him beat you. So I mean, I think the tackles haven't been great, but I still have faith that, the Sharon Moore is, an awesome offensive line coach. So I guess my one concern is that Sharon Moore being the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach, maybe it's too much. I don't know. But the offensive line just has not looked as dominant through 4 games as it did last year. But it hasn't looked bad. I mean, Blake Corum is making things look pretty good, and that's what he does. That's what number 2 does.
So there could be 9 sacks by Nebraska, is what you're saying.
Well, the pass blocking hasn't been awful.
They have Miles Hinton in there. I don't know.
they've been pretty solid with the pass pro. I mean, and JJ's a guy that is pretty decisive with getting the ball out, and also is. I mean, when he needs to, he's decisive with running the ball, getting out of the pocket, and picking up a first down. He did that against Rutgers. But in those first 3 games, you don't see it because, Jim Harbaugh and his staff are saying, you are not taking hits. And he took a couple in the first few games. And, every time you hold your breath because, again, that backup spot is not solidified by any stretch at the moment. So, but, yeah, I mean, I think, just the offensive line hasn't been as dominant as 2022 or 2021. So, that's the one thing that I'd like to see, improve a little bit. And because I think if it gets to the level that we've seen in the past, this is a really damn good football team that can win a national championship.
You think so? Michigan
Absolutely
can win it. Okay.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I think every team has its flaws especially in the upper echelon of college football right now. But I think what Michigan has from just, you look at position by position, they're pretty damn loaded, and I think that they've got as good a chance of anybody. They're one of the only teams with a returning starter at quarterback, and he's played, he had a couple blunders against Bowling Green, but has been really, really good. So, you throw in him with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, hopefully starting to sort it out a little bit on the run game. He's very explosive as a receiver. I mean, this team, so talented, just so deep. The defensive line is, I don't want to say Georgia level, but it feels that way with, multiple guys who will probably be first round picks at some point.
Chris Jenkins, we were talking about.
Yeah. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant. I mean, just
good.
Elite. This is the best defensive line group I've seen in my time watching Michigan. And I'm a young guy, but I've been watching Michigan since, 2003. And the only one that really comes close is maybe 2006, in my opinion. Like, I think these guys are that good. And that group had Tim Jamison, Alan Branch.
A lot of good players.
A lot of really good players. This is a team that was 11-0 going to the Ohio State game. So yeah, I do. I think this team is very deep, very loaded. They're on a mission. Everybody knows what the goals are, what the objectives are. So
there is a question I want to tackle about the option that that Nebraska runs, and like can Michigan beat the option? And my answer to that is Scott Frost ran an option in 2021, and Michigan was able to do enough. Now, granted, that game was close,
right?
And I think Martinez might have been a reason why it went the other way. But the option concepts, when I watched them against Northwestern that year, it looked pretty deadly. And if they had the execution, then they probably could have beat Michigan in 2021. But yeah, and it's the same scheme as it was back then. It's the same Ravens. Mike McDonald was the defensive coordinator then in 2021. Now, obviously, with Minner also coming from that same system, learning from Wink Martindale. So yeah, I think the answer is yes. But it isn't always perfect, and especially against a running quarterback that can execute at the level that Harburg can, it might be a challenge.
Well, I think it's going to be just flat out interesting to see what Nebraska tries to do on offense. They lined up and played. They ran a lot of I formation plays against Louisiana Tech, and I think if we do that against Michigan, we'll just get destroyed, because we're going to have to spread you guys out. I think if we play football in a phone booth, there's no room there for us to do the trapping and pulling and misdirection stuff that I would like to see us do. So, because our offense, the left side of our offensive line is not, well, it's not good. It's not even, kind of average. It's just not good at all, because, the main tackle, Teddy Prohaska, that we would have over there has been injured a lot, and he's been replaced by Turner Corcoran, and he has not played well. He's played terrible. So, and as long as we run right, we probably will be maybe we'll pick up 3 yards a carry.
Yeah, Cole, I will say this. I love watching the I formation stuff. It's great. And I also like when Penn State runs the wing T. It's just like that kind of offense is just fun to see trotted out. And a lot of defenses don't practice it all the time anymore. So
right.
So do you guys? Alabama had some struggles for a minute against when Tennessee tried it.
So when you guys, you brought up Iowa, do you guys feel sorry for Cade McNamara at all?
No, he made his bed. He can lie in it. That's where I'm at. Because I appreciate Cade. He won, he was the quarterback for a Big Ten championship, first Big Ten championship in a long time. And so I will always be grateful for that. But, the way he left, and he went on a podcast with Jordan Palmer, brother of Carson Palmer, who's his personal quarterback coach. And they talked about JJ McCarthy as, and I quote, the other guy, like he was Voldemort from Harry Potter. Like, just say his name. It's okay. Everybody knows what happened. You lost the job. That's okay. And just, took, I don't know. He was a captain, and I just didn't think that he was there for his team when he got, he gets hurt. I understand he got a rehab and stuff, but, announces his transfer the week of the Big Ten championship game. And, I don't know, just continually has said things. And, he made a comment of like, I'm not used to my defense scoring. And it was like, that's weird, Cade, because in the 2 of the 3 games you played last year, they had a defense or special teams touchdown. Like, just a lot of things. I normally don't get this way. Like Eric All left and went to Iowa. I like Eric All. Good luck to you, buddy. I love Eric All, but just stop bringing up Michigan. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm at. And I don't know. It's just been.
He said too many things out the door.
Absolutely. Just leave with grace. You would have been a legend around here if you would have just been quiet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And I've referenced the Jordan Palmer podcast a couple of times on the show in the past, because I actually felt if I could take my Mason Blue glasses off for a minute and I listened to like the NIL stuff, I thought that was really interesting in that podcast, because you don't normally hear the player perspective on NIL and how it goes at places like Iowa and Nebraska. But Jordan Palmer kept trying to like bait him and you know, how to go with the other, you know, the other guy in the competition. And then he said some weird things like, "Oh my God, the defense actually scores points here at Iowa." I'm like, Michigan doesn't score points on the defense. Like, oh, did you just like not watch when
they had a scoop and score the one game he started last year? Like, I don't know how much more they can score for you. But yeah, he made comments about Michigan's NIL. Like, I know some folks connected in the NIL area. I know JJ McCarthy does pretty well, and I mean, Cade had to deal with the Tom Brady brand. Like,
yeah,
you know, like there's just like the pot shots were just weird to me. You know, just move on. Let's all move on, and we'll, you know, see you at the reunion in 10 years and appreciate you. But now it's like he puts his foot in his mouth. So I don't know.
People are being very nice in the comments. This is what is happening.
When they say they're a huge fan of John, is that you or me?
I hope it's. I think that there's been some that have said John as in you, and then there's been some because we're simulcasting on Core Nation right now.
Well, that is
so.
True.
Not only do we have Voice of College Football, Michigan, Nebraska, and the Core Nation. So I'm sure it's a mix of both Johns.
So, is there any holes in special teams that we can take advantage of?
Michigan did miss a field goal last week, but it was after probably the worst delay of game. Like, the clock was still at 1, and they called delay of game. And I'm a Lions fan. I remember when they gave the Ravens like 3 seconds after it hit 0 to kick that game winner a couple years ago. Yeah. Obviously, NFL, NCAA different, but yeah, I mean, you know, Jake Moody's the leading scorer with the 49ers in the NFL right now at kicker. So we don't have Jake Moody kicking for Michigan right now. And, you know, he was automatic. I mean, he had, I'm trying to do the math, I guess, I don't know, 4 or 5 field goals in Lincoln that won the game. I mean, he was huge. So, you know, he's definitely a guy that Michigan misses. I miss personally. Otherwise, though, just, you know, if you guys do like a squib or, you know, a pooch kick on the kickoff, one of the upbacks may fumble it, you know, so that happened against Bowling Green. So that's about the only thing I would say. John, I don't know if you have anything to add, but those are the two kind of sore spots at the moment.
I'm gonna say, losing the kicker that went 99th overall in the draft, which is the highest a kicker has gone in 7 years. Yeah, he was automatic for us, and obviously, you know, any kicker pretty much is going to be a step down. It's the reality. He was probably the best kicker we've ever had. So I would say, if there is a weakness, maybe we might miss a field goal that we would have scored last year. So I would say yes to that one.
I think Nebraska's special teams is a work in progress.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy we fired didn't even have special.
I was going to say, he didn't even know it existed.
What was that? What's special teams?
Honest to God, that's the truth. He really didn't even pay attention to it at all. And, you know, now I think they've been reasonable. They missed a long field goal. We've executed a fake field goal very well against Louisiana Tech, which was cool to see. The guy that had the long kickoff return against Minnesota is out for the season. And Ramir Johnson, the guy that I said was probably our best playmaker. So we tend to just fair catch everything on punt returns, which I don't know. I'd like to see some change. I mean, you got to get some kind of spark for offense, for something getting down the field. So, you know, maybe that'll change this week. What could happen during this game is we have this big giant Gatling gun on a tractor that we drive around the stadium at home, and it shoots T-shirts like a Gatling gun. Maybe if one of your quarterback is standing, he's too far in front of it, he gets hit, and there you go. We have to use your backup quarterback there. Nebraska wins. There you go. That's what happened.
You know, maybe crazier things have happened. I will say too, though, on the punt return aspect, Michigan is breaking in a new punter this year, Tommy Doman. Haven't seen him a ton, but the kid, he also handles kickoff duties, and
we don't punt
as a
much.
Punter, as a punter. The kid's got a cannon of the leg. I don't even know if that makes sense, but he boots it, and you know, he's got great hang time as well. So when Michigan does punt, He does a great job, and he took over for a guy who was drafted by the Bengals. It is the Bengals starting punter now, Brad Robbins. So Michigan special teams, you talk about Scott Frost not really caring about special teams. Michigan makes it a priority, maybe more than every other team except for Iowa. Like, they are always one of the best special teams units in the country, and that's just attention to detail. That's just who Jim Harbaugh is. Like, he knows how important each facet of the game is, and they've done a great job with special teams since he's been here.
Okay, did you guys think he'd get here? I mean, honestly,
at first, yeah.
I mean, when Jim Harbaugh was hired, he was like, it's kind of like us with that guy we fired. He's the savior. And then Harbaugh struggled for what is this? His 8th year?
9th.
Yeah.
He started in 15. Yeah. So this is his 9th
15,
year, 8th full year. Yeah. I mean, in struggles, right? I mean, didn't beat Ohio State. I mean, they had a lot of years where they win 10 games, and that 2016 team was really, really good and would have made the playoffs if, they get the stop on Ohio State in overtime. 2016, I said absolutely. I mean, top 5 recruiting classes every year. 2018, same thing that season, and then they go into Columbus, and that was the moment where I was like, oh, this may not happen. But a lot of different things happened. Michigan goes through the COVID year. They just, Jim Harbaugh really revamps his staff. Right. Urban Meyer leaves Ohio. I mean, look, Urban Meyer, whatever you want to say about him, is one of the best coaches of all time in college football. Anytime you got a guy like that leave, you're going to have a downgrade, even if that guy is, 49-6 as a head coach. But I think with Urban Meyer leaving and Ryan Day taking over at Ohio State, I think there's kind of this whirlwind of different changes and things happening in the landscape of college football really helped to Michigan's benefit. Michigan zigged when everyone else zagged with the way that they play offense. Not a lot of teams were really, smash mouth, hard-nosed football teams that wanted to run the ball. And so you've just, it just created a recipe for Michigan to do what I've never experienced. And how down, I mean, what the last, 2+ seasons, they're 32-3. Since 2021. Yeah. So, I thought when he got hired, I was like, yes, he's going to do what he did at Stanford. Took a while, but he's basically doing exactly that. I mean, just, we're going to punch you in the mouth, and we're going to run the ball, and we're going to kick your ass, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's exactly what he's done at Michigan the last couple of years. And it's been amazing as a Michigan fan to watch it unfold.
So I am gonna tackle the third base Ryan Day comments in a bit. Because we are getting some discussion about that. Thank you,
how
Brian.
long are we going to go, John?
Another five or so minutes.
Okay.
Just,
you got something else coming up? Because I wanted to ask you guys' opinion on something.
Go for it.
Okay, this is the last year of college football as we know it.
Yeah.
And it's the last year of the Big Ten. It's been changes with us showing up, and then Rutgers, Maryland. But I mean, come on. We didn't go out and find 4 scruffy crap teams to join us. You know what I mean?
I know.
This is the last year that this is going to be like anything that it resembles now.
Yeah.
So what I keep telling people is next year, when you look at the Big Ten next year, an 8-4 record might be the best record you can possibly get. I mean, this whole idea that, I'm with Ohio State and we're going to go 12-0 or something, or I'm Michigan and we're going to go 12. I think those days are gone.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be a lot more like NFL football, where you look at a team and you go, well, they're 8-4 and they got into the playoffs, so it's a good year. And I think that's going to be a massive adjustment for all of us that, we judge people. Oh my God, my people are insane. If people say Nebraska, people say Nebraska fans are delusional, it's because we've had to face the guy we fired for years, and you just
think they've hit the liquid courage, and they're coming at us now.
I guess
we have the best beef in the world. That's all I can say.
That they do.
What do you think 2024? I mean, what do you think college football is going to look like?
Oh, geez.
The NFL.
Yeah.
Like like you said. I mean, it sucks. I mean, as a Michigan fan, and I'm sure to a certain extent as a Nebraska fan, you're not going to be left behind. You're one of those blue blood type programs. You're not going to deal with what Washington State fans or Oregon State fans are dealing with. But that sucks. Like that stinks. And you've got a ton of guys that don't know shit about college football that are running the show, and they're TV executives with their MBAs from whatever school that didn't even have a college football program. And they're the ones coming in and making the decisions. And we're all the ones that are going to, I'm going to continue to watch. I love college football. It's my favorite thing in the world outside of, the important things. Right. And, I've been watching it since I was a kid, and I've always as a kid was playing the college football video games and stuff. And it's just like the version of college football that I know and love, like you said, is gone after this year. So I hadn't really thought about it too much. I don't know if I'm going to be like sentimental about it or take a moment to reflect or anything, but yeah, I mean, it's sad. Oregon State, Washington State was an awesome football game, and those teams aren't going to have anything to play for next year. What are we doing here?
Yeah. It's turning semi-pro. That's what I'm calling it, semi-pro. And it's more NIL generated. Obviously, even this year, the clock rules have so they can
gotta get more commercials,
squeeze in more commercials, and and then the game is like over. Like the Rutgers game was over in less than 3 hours. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go live soon. Like all of a sudden, because it was just over.
Has it led you guys to ask yourself questions like, is Beyonce married?
Well, I'm not sure I follow.
Well, you got the Taylor Swift thing going on in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
It's changed everything. My God, the Taylor Swifty people are all over Twitter.
About that,
They're insane. Deion Sanders is blowing up the media stuff with a personality that doesn't make any sense. I mean, more people are going to come into this. John Diamo, are you married?
No, not yet.
Well, you should set your sights higher. Start looking for celebrities and movie
stars.
Okay,
all right. I'll try. I'll see if Taylor Swift knows anybody, because it sounds like she's with Kelsey now. But I did want to get
only for a couple months.
But
then she's probably available.
Then she'll write a song about him and move on. But so I don't know if you have a hard stop, John, but I did want to get your predictions and everybody's predictions on Michigan, Nebraska. Now, I've already given them. I gave them on the Nebraska show, so now I got to stay consistent on this show, right? Big J journalism here, Voice of College Football. So I'm going 34-17 because I think Nebraska is going to get some quarterback runs through. And some field goals. So, what do you guys think? We'll go with John first.
Oh my God, I have to make a real prediction. You know what I usually do? I usually make like 8 different predictions, and then I go.
Sure.
Afterwards, I tell people which one was the closest.
Sure.
24-21 Nebraska. There you go.
Woo!
Just because it's at home. Right. It's at home in Lincoln, and you guys might be tempted to have some runzas, and God knows what that'll do to your digestive systems. So everybody will be like, kind of like, ooh, and then we'll get 9 sacks. And I don't know. I would think that I think that we can cover the 18, 19, 17 point spread. All of your scores have been like 31-7, 31-34-7. I mean, nobody scored more than 7, have they?
No, they're giving up 5.8 per game at this point, I think. So, it's been pretty dominant from the Michigan defense. I said this. I was on a podcast, but I'm gonna be consistent, John, like you said. I was with some of my boys. I wanted to ruffle the feathers a little bit, see if I, step on their toes a little bit. I said 38-6 Michigan.
Oh, wow.
I know.
All right.
John, I was almost.
You.
I know. I'm sorry. I almost had the Rutgers score, man. If Michigan would have popped one of those runs on that last drive, I said 38-10. They won 31-7. I was close.
Yeah.
I think realistically, I'm thinking more like 34-13. But I said 38-6, so I'm gonna go with it. But I do, that the defensive line in Nebraska does give me some pause. I mean, they're much better than last year, where Michigan could really just run over them with, no real effort. So I do like some of the things I've seen. I do think Grant's playing good football. I think Harbaug's a good. How do you say? Is it Harburg?
Oh God, now I'm screwed up. Harburg.
Heinrich Harburg. What a name! First of all, is he from Kearney, Grand Island? Where is he from? He's in
Kearney
Nebraska.
Catholic. Yes.
Kearney. Okay.
Kearney Catholic.
Yeah. If you lived in Nebraska, John, the dialect.
Right.
So I think he's an athletic
that's the
kid.
other thing. he is from Kearney Catholic, so he has God on your side, and his side more than anybody on your team. That's worth like 10 points
Well,
at home.
Oh, who was the kid that transferred from UCF
Harbaugh
and
hung out with
followed?
the Pope. Harbaugh
Who-
hung out with the Pope.
Who was
There
the
was
kid
that.
from Wahoo that went to UCF and then transferred back to Nebraska? Didn't he go to a Catholic school and then he went to Rutgers? Michigan never lost to him, so I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember his name.
The quarterback.
Oh my gosh, yes, I can't remember his
Yeah.
name. But he transferred to Rutgers, and so maybe. But yeah, Jim Harbaugh was at. What is it? I'm not Catholic. I went to Rome, but I'm not Catholic. Whatever the circle is.
The Vatican.
Is it St. John's Square? Is that what it is? Am I thinking that? I don't know. He gave the Pope not Jordan cleats and a Michigan helmet, and the Pope's probably like, I have no idea what to do with this. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this symbolizes. So, but yeah, I think it'll be. I'm coming out to Omaha, hang with some friends, and going to the game on Saturday. So can't wait to get back and see everybody. And we'll be going to Memorial Stadium and having a great time. They hit up my favorite bar, Barry's. Barry's the Husker Bar. This is my favorite bar of all time.
right,
It's a rooftop bar. Man,
Yeah.
it's some good times. It's gonna be 93 degrees on Saturday as well.
Is it?
That's what the weather app's telling me. What the hell, man? I'm
Well,
looking. I was looking forward to like.
You can figure that the field's going to be like 105.
It may be some cramping, and I
Yeah.
might join them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep, Cole is backing us up here. Barry's, that's the move, apparently.
It is. It's a rooftop, man. It's right by the stadium. So the coolest thing about Nebraska and the way that they, there's Lincoln is. I lived in Lincoln for a year. I loved it there. Their stadium is downtown, and all the
Right.
bars you can walk. Whereas the big house is further away from the campus down on Stadium in Maine. You don't have any bars by the big house. If you're at a bar, you got to walk at least 20 minutes to get to the game. Whereas in Lincoln, you can probably walk 5. So that's the best part about Lincoln and its structure downtown. But yeah, Barry's awesome. I'm going to be getting after it, having some beers, having some fun with the Nebraska fans. Best place to go on the road in the Big Ten, by the way. Any Michigan fans, they're so nice, like just the greatest people. And it's just a hell of an environment. Like it's the loudest environment I've ever been in watching a game. So I can't imagine it'll be any different on Saturday.
Are you going to wear a Detroit Lions hat?
No, I'll be wearing these. I like to stand out. My wife will be wearing Nebraska colors though. So yeah.
There you go. Well, I'm making an executive decision. We've kind of alluded to Rutgers a couple of times, but if you do want to hear the Rutgers stuff, go back to Saturday's Michigan post-game live. And we do have it every Saturday with Dre Artis and myself, and we break down the game that we just saw. But I think Rutgers and Nebraska kind of talked about the keys to the game and the fact that Rutgers was kept on the field on defense, right? And I think Nebraska, they're really going to try to do the same Jim Harbaugh style.
Right.
Long punishing drives, wear out Nebraska's defense. And that could be what does it. Let's tackle this as our wrap up here, and then we'll do final thoughts on where can people find you on the internet, of course. But we've had some back and forth, a real battle royale between head coach of Ohio State, Ryan Day, and an 89-year-old or approximately 89-year-old former head coach of Notre Dame, Lou Holtz. And Ryan seems to be a little riled up. And in my experience, and I've been in business for almost 10 years, and I've seen a lot of this when someone has to say that they're physical, when someone has to say something, then there's some insecurity there. And it's the same with the people who drive the giant, pickups with the LED lights underneath, or
whatever
the case may be. There's some compensation going on.
You know what?
So,
I would be upset if somebody said my team wasn't physical either.
Yeah, especially the way Lou Holtz did.
He never said the word toughness, though.
Right.
Here's the thing. This is part of the new college football. Okay, Ryan Day got talked about a lot because he was very emotional. I quite frankly thought it was pretty good. I don't have the hate for either of you guys that you have for each other. And I thought Ryan Day's thing later was, it was like, holy shit, he's really either he's buck. I mean, Ohio State, they want him to win every single game ever. And I realized that kind of at
Right.
that point that it's not enough that he could beat somebody 31-10. He has to beat him 52-10. And I think the pressure there is amazing. But I think we're also seeing that he maybe he's one of these guys that recognize that the blabbering that we're going to be seeing from coaches from now on because of the Sanders, the prime effect. That's the future of college football. That's what we saw. The same thing from, oh, come on. Was it Washington State's coach complaining about Lee Corso? When Lee Corso said when Washington State and Oregon State played, right?
Mm.
And Lee Corso in College Game
Oh,
Day
yeah.
said,
I remember getting a notification about that. Yeah.
That's the nobody watch it bowl. And Washington State's coach came after that and kind of told Lee Corso so many things. And, I think that's where we're going to have to go, or that's what it looks like, is the personalities are going to start taking over a lot more because that's what they're going to play up. They paid a lot of money for the new contracts. And, is Beyonce single? See that? See what's going to happen to our game?
Yeah.
That's the future.
See, I think my issue is not so much necessarily going after Lou Holtz, because I'm a Michigan guy. I'm not a Lou Holtz guy. I mean, my thing with it is you're so tough and you still struggled to get across the goal line when Notre Dame had 10 guys on the field and you had nobody over the left tackle or guard, right? And it was still I mean, it was relatively close. Like that running back did just walk in, like he had to kind of dive in. My other issue with that statement was he talked about having one bad half the last 2 years. And he said and he reiterated it in the post-game presser. We had one bad half the last 2 years up in Ann Arbor. And I said, Ryan, you were in Columbus in 2022. You got outscored 28-3 in the second half. That was the main issue I had. Because hey, talk about Lou Holtz, but just remember,
Donovan
had something to do with that. Absolutely.
Donovan Edwards might have a thing or two to say about only one bad half in 2021, because Donovan Edwards may have broken out for some legendary runs there in 2022. So. The physicality thing, it's really I think maybe deep down he knows, Urban Meyer's teams, they were very physical, and Ryan, like to his, and I don't mean this in a negative way necessarily, Ryan Day built the team more as a finesse speed team.
Well, they have 25 5-star wide receivers, right? I mean,
yeah, they do.
I mean, that's what I mean. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, and but I think that the idea is to try to beat a Georgia, right? And I think that's why he's built the team that way, because he's looking at the playoff and he's looking at, okay, how do I beat a Georgia type? And they almost did, right? And they were winning that game for a lot of the game, right? So, that's the flip side of it. But there's that it's not just Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz is the face. Lou Holtz is the face of this giant narrative that he keeps hearing because he's lost against Michigan now twice in a row.
Do you think he has like dreams of Lou Holtz like slobbering on his pumpkin pie and stuff like that?
No, but I think Michigan's in his head. I think that was partly why he went on that rant. I think he's feeling the heat internally. I don't know if they'll ever fire him, because if he goes 11-1 and just loses to Michigan, like, at what point is Ohio State going to pull the plug? But they did that with John Cooper, right? And it wasn't to the level that Ryan Days had them at. But and eventually, like, all right, buddy, pack your things. Like, we need somebody. And they go get Jim Tressel and, flip the rivalry on its head. But I feel he's got to be feeling that, right? I mean, in your everyday job, like, if you feel you're not up to snuff, you kind of feel it. And you're like, all right, I need to, have some self-reflection and do this, that. He's at the top of his craft, man. Those guys are hyper aware of everything that goes on. He knows exactly where that pressure is coming from when it comes to the boosters, the fan base, within the institution. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's feeling some of those pressures, and maybe they're internal pressures on himself to be better, to beat Michigan.
Right.
But I think he's feeling it from everywhere. And if they had lost that game, I'll tell you, a lot of Ohio State fans that I follow switched up immediately. They were so pissed after that 4th-and-1 sweep that got blown up, which is a terrible play call. And then they love him after he, Notre Dame gifts them the game. So
yeah,
it's
10 guys on
it's
the
interesting.
freaking field.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that 4th-and-1 was really puzzling.
Yes.
Yeah. One more question.
Yeah.
Who wins the Big Ten West? From two guys that aren't part of the Big Ten West. Huh? There you go. Yeah, see this?
If you guys, if Nebraska had beat Minnesota, I would have said Minnesota. If Minnesota had beat Northwestern, I would have said Minnesota. Seriously, like I was looking at the schedule because I have so many friends in Nebraska, and I was like, man, your schedule is like, yeah, Coach Prime's there, but you guys can win that like before the season. I'm like, you guys can be 4-0 going to this Michigan game. If your offense came to play, you probably would be. Man, that's a tough one. I think the easy pick's probably Wisconsin. It's going to be a lot of rock fights in the West, man. Like Wisconsin, Iowa, do I want to watch that? Probably not. Iowa's still made with that defense. I'm seeing some Iowas in there. I think Iowa, Wisconsin, but I said this on the other podcast I was on before hopping on. I think Nebraska is going to finish, like I could see them finishing if things go well, 2nd or 3rd in the West. Like I still think it's so wide open, and I like what I've seen, the improvements with Nebraska. So I don't know if they'll win it. If they were 2-0 right now, or 1-0 in the Big Ten right now, depending on the schedules, I'd feel decent about Nebraska. But God, that's a tough question. That's a loaded question, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, let me put it in a different way. What team from the West is going to upset Michigan in the Big Ten championship game?
Yeah.
USC, UCLA already joined.
Yeah, I was going to say, right? Yeah, if they were in, maybe. But yeah, I watched Iowa, and a lot of people, all the Penn State fans have already given me some grief over my Iowa wins prediction. Now, I predicted Iowa won before Lachey went down and 2 of their top running backs, to be fair, but I didn't quite calculate just how much of a menace to offense Brian Ferentz is, and how he should have been left on the tarmac after that abysmal performance. So I don't know. Wisconsin looks like they're improving. I'm gonna go Iowa by a hair. It's close.
I'd say Iowa if Cade McNamara stays healthy. Wisconsin if Braylon Allen stays healthy.
Because Malusi could be out for the year, right?
What?
Ches Malusi's out? Yeah, I thought I heard that on Big Ten Network today. Yeah, that's a huge loss for them.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin with Braylon Allen, he's very, very good. I think if Nebraska can figure out any kind of offense where they could score like 25 points a game, if they could meet Brian Ferentz's contract.
God, I would love. I wish I had some nepotism in my life, fellas. Golly, I would be riding the highlight.
Yeah.
You wouldn't catch me doing a damn thing. I wouldn't be doing my job competently at all. Gosh.
We do have a question from I think one of the Corn Nation. Does Nebraska beat Iowa this year?
Yes, because we get a field goal and they get a safety. 3-2.
I think Iowa's been involved in a game like that. Am I wrong? I think that's happened before.
Yeah. I think
Penn State Iowa, maybe.
Yeah.
What's crazy is I saw that Iowa had 72 yards of total offense against Penn State. That's their second least amount of yards. They put up 66, and the week after they put up 55 on Ohio State, they went out and put 66 yards up against, I think, Wisconsin in 2017. So, they just really know offense down in Iowa City.
May Kirk stay there many more years.
Quick. Yeah, I did promise that I would take calls. And especially, it's mostly because I was not on the Ocho Big Ten Live last night. Had other things I was doing, and I said, if anybody wants to call me out for my Iowa wins, so I'm only going to post it one time because I don't think we're going to go too much longer. But if anybody does want to call in briefly to talk about Michigan, about Nebraska, or about calling me out for my Iowa prediction, I'll take my medicine. That's fine. Penn State was the better team. And
I haven't figured this
what it
part
is.
of life out. How we're going to take calls on
Oh,
streaming.
it's easy. Somebody's going to pop in and we bring him in. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I want to just real quick.
There he is.
Well, John, real quick, I just want to address Penn State is better than Iowa, yes, but Penn State also had like 4 yards per play. I'm still not sold on them. They had like 4 yards per play. They had 400 yards and they had the ball, 97 plays. So I just want to throw that out there. I still got to see it from Millar to believe it.
Offensively, Iowa was just absolutely.
Well, I think my
abysmal.
JV team from 2010 today could probably put up a better offensive performance. Like my freshman year JV team, like us now, where we are current statures, physicality could probably do better than Iowa offensively. So
we do have one caller. So friend of the show, Mike Fort, is in the house. Hey, Mike, go blue.
Go blue. Yeah, nice prediction, John.
Yeah, I knew you might be the first to line up. Yes. I just didn't quite calculate exactly how. Like I was watching the offense, and I thought that Cade McNamara and Eric All would at least have some influence over. Bringing in some of that 2021 Michigan playbook a little bit, maybe in the base formations of Iowa. And obviously, like, just Brian Ferentz is so bad at his job. It is beyond belief how bad of a job he's done. And Penn State's defense also, to be fair, has been pretty good against teams not named Michigan.
It just kind of boggles my mind that I think I tried to explain to preseason that Iowa's offensive line is going to be terrible, and it's like you don't understand. You're going from a guy that was playing behind a back-to-back more winning offensive line to an offensive line that is terrible. I don't think there's anything wrong with Cade McNamara. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with Eric Hall. Now he had a nasty fumble that he probably could have taken that one back, but
right.
But I mean, I don't think Cade being subpar is the reason why what it was like 5 of 14 or something like that.
No, the line was, and by the way, Corey Bradis said the same thing, and I called into his show and gave my 11-1 Iowa prediction, and that I thought that Iowa might beat Penn State at the game, and that line was Corey Brada pointed that out as the big weakness, and when I looked at it, he was right, and that you bring in like Division II players, and to be fair, they're probably like the best player in their team, but still, it was we all whiff sometimes, and so I was thinking of changing it when I saw the injury report, and I didn't. I was like, you know what, I can't, because people are gonna give me too much shit. So I'll just keep it. And
that's the thing. Cade isn't 100%. That there is that. I mean, he didn't really look all that hobbled in the Penn State game, but they're saying he wasn't at 100%. And so I told you, the offensive line is the strict only reason why I said Wisconsin would win the West, because I said Wisconsin go 9-3, Iowa 8-4, and 9-3 included a loss at Washington State. So, whenever they lost Washington State, it's like that's one of the 3 I thought they were going to lose. So everything seems to be coming right. The only game between in the first 8 games, first 4 Iowa, first 4 Wisconsin, I got wrong because I thought Iowa State was going to beat Iowa because it was in Ames and I didn't trust Iowa. But
I just put the link in our private chat. So if you want to send, if you want to talk to Orson, but we do want to wrap up here in a bit too, and make sure everybody gets a chance to say where they can find you on the internet and all of that good stuff. But Mike, any final thoughts for you? Any thoughts about Nebraska and what you think might happen?
I think I had the score as 31-9. I think that there's a chance they can move it on us. Not so much in the air, but I think they have a chance to move it on us, get a couple field goals. But I'm expecting us to cover.
Yeah. I think it's going to be tight. I think at 34-17, that would be not like barely not, because apparently it's gone down to 17.5 now is where how Michigan is favored by. So I'm thinking 17 is going to be probably the margin or somewhere around there. All right, Mike. Well, we're going to let you go. Thanks for calling in and holding me accountable, and go Blue, and we'll see you soon. Okay.
Go Blue. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Later.
Yep. 17.5 is the current line from DraftKings.
Well, there you go. All right, John. So let's final thought for you, and let people know, for those who aren't watching you right now in Corn Nation, where people can find you.
Well, I guess I'm Corn Nation just about everywhere. I mean, I'm Corn Nation on Twitter. Corn Nation. Nobody takes the name Corn Nation because it's the dumbest name for a website or anything that I could think of. I started in 2006, and I started it with the idea that if I named it Corn Nation, I would remember to remind myself constantly to keep a sense of humor about Nebraska football, rather than, like, I don't know, go sitting in my bathroom and screaming and ranting and for hours. Now I only rant for like 8 minutes to 10 minutes at a time into a phone, and then I post it on the internet. But Corn Nation on Twitter, cornnation.com on the website, Corn Nation on YouTube. I don't really do Instagram because I suck at anything on a phone, and I don't do TikTok. Maybe I'll do those at some point, but not yet.
There you go. And any final thoughts for us?
Well, I guess, this is when I grew up, there were only like 3 games on TV. Yeah. And, when you're 10-year-old kid living in Nebraska and you had the winged helmets, they always stick out to you. So when I graduated from high school, I applied to 3 colleges. I applied at Nebraska, Notre Dame, and Michigan. I knew I had to go to Nebraska because I would have never been able to afford to go to Michigan or Notre Dame. One of the other schools has accepted me. I don't remember which. So Michigan is, always been there for me. Saying that, I think this is going to be a good measuring stick for Nebraska to see where we are against one of the best teams in the nation. And, I don't really expect a lot out of Nebraska, but as we know, anything can happen. Appalachian State 2007. But, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I would expect, I would hope that we win by you guys not covering. How's that?
Whew. Well, yeah, I mean, App State always brings back shivers, but at least now we're not alone in the club. Texas A&M joined the upset club, so we're not alone, at least. All right, we'll go to Tanner now. Final thought, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I've got a long drive to Nebraska on Thursday. I've made that drive plenty of times in my life. So 94 to I-80 all the way through, man. Iowa's the worst state to drive through, by the way. Oh my God. So I'll be listening to some podcasts, getting ready for the Lions game, be hitting up, if there's any Huskers in here, maybe DJs, maybe the Good Life, maybe local, some of those, they're local sports bars in Omaha. Watch the Lions-Packers game. Final thoughts. No, man, I'm just so glad it's football season. I wish I could say it's so glad it's fall, but it's going to be, 95 goddamn degrees in Nebraska. I'm going to wear shorts and a T-shirt. I was hoping to wear a hoodie. But no, yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Tanner Wu-Tang. You can find us on the website at blueby90.com. Find us on Twitter at blueby90. Check out North Peak Brewing. Check out our beer, the Blue by 90 Game Day Ale. Check out Hail IPA. All the above. It's all great, delicious beer. And yeah, man, we're coming back on another week of football. I can't be more happy about it. Go Blue.
Absolutely. And I'm going to remind everybody of our sponsors real quick. We've been so packed with content, I can't forget. Ticketsmarter.com. Get your tickets there. It is football season, so check out the merch store. And of course, when you're doing your shopping on Amazon, we do recommend that everybody clicks the link in any description section and get Mark Rogers a couple of bucks, because what's wrong with that? So you can do that. And then, of course, join our Patreon and Discord and YouTube membership to talk college football all the time, Wolverines all the time, Cornhuskers all the time, etc., etc. YouTube membership is only $2.99. That's it, folks. So you can get access to the betting guides and the Discord chat and all that good stuff. So we do recommend everybody do that. And then for everybody here, my name's John Diadamo. Go Blue, and thanks everybody for stopping by Michigan Wolverines Live at our new time. Go Blue, everybody. Go Big Red for you.
Hey, thanks for having me, you guys.
Thanks for coming on. See you guys.